Hi everyone, a sweet multi-layered laminated pastry here with rhyme signatures. The nerdiest music review this side of not knowing much about Denmark outside of the greatest bakery treat known to mankind. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Press to Enter album, From Mirror to Road. You know, if I had a nickel for every time in 2023 that a debut album from a prog band came along, absolutely kicked my ass, and featured an astronaut on the cover, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Yes, my fine and wonderful viewing audience 2023 is truly set to go down in history for me as the year of the launching of 1,000 ships. Now, I don't know if it's just down to my adopted position as the championing of the little guy, the starter band, the ones finding their footing or not, but there's been an awful lot of new bands cropping up in the prog sphere, and an awful lot of them have been absolutely fantastic. So in comes Press to Enter, a new band from Denmark who approached me a few weeks ago asking if I'd like to review their new album From Mirror to Road. Now, I have a very firm policy: I will listen to every single promo album that is sent my way. Admittedly, that isn't as many compared to some, but hey, these bands are taking the time to reach out to me, so the least I can do is at least check them out, right? But of course, not every band is a hit for me. And while I've not listened to any objectively bad promos, I've listened to a lot that I've simply not had the time or energy to do a full review of. Press to Enter managed to be one of those rare bands that clicked for me immediately. I could see them on stage as I listened. I envisaged a massive, successful and interesting future for them. And then I saw myself sat there thinking, I was there before these guys blew up. Yes, everyone, Press to Enter are good. Very good, in fact. Good to the point where I would make favourable comparisons to bands like Haken and Leprous when they first emerged from the primordial progressive soup, taking their awkward faltering steps, only to become some of the biggest names in the biz. Now, I can't help but feel that the progressive community will soon become very familiar with vocalist Julie Wingreen, bassist Lucas Stierbach, and guitarist Simon Lawland very soon. So what's these guys' deal? You know, what makes them so interesting? What makes them worth your time compared to the dozens of other young hopeful bands out there? For me, what sets Press to Enter aside from their contemporaries is the flawless layering between extreme instrumental technicalities and blissful, catchy, hook-laden pop melodies that wouldn't be out of place in the global top 40s. The angular presentation between Stierbach's thumping bass, Lawland's razor-sharp guitar work, and Wingreen's haunting, sumptuous vocal work, as well as some quirky, creative, and dynamic keyboard works, makes for an absolutely irresistible combination. Imagine the compositional technicalities of an Animals as Leaders record with, Anneke van Giersberging soaring over Tosin Abasi's guitar lines, and you'll get an idea of where this band is coming from and the kind of sounds you can expect from this album. It never fails to impress how effortlessly the band can swing from these fantastic staccato slap guitar riffs and incredibly complex sweeping bass lines to massive melodic passages where you can picture a stadium full of people bouncing along to some of the most addictive, memorable, and downright enjoyable vocal deliveries I've heard this year. It really is the best of both worlds, satisfying my musician's brain and desire for technicality, but also my more immediate demand for instant gratification, and the band deserves all the praise I can dish out for striking such an impressive balance between the two. From Mirror to Road comes in at an easily digestible 46 minutes long, across 9 tracks, or rather 8 tracks and a brief 30-second interlude, and manages to sit in that sweet spot of feeling neither too short nor too long. It's here for precisely as long as it needs to be, and never feels like it's outstaying its welcome. If anything, though, the greedy part of my brain wishes that maybe the interlude track of QCKFX, I don't know what it stands for, but my autocorrect insisted it was typing quick fix, so maybe that's what it means. I don't know, maybe if that was fleshed out into a full song, but honestly, this is just more of my thirsty ass wanting more and more of an already excellent thing, rather than feeling, short-changed or anything like that. The album kicks off with Pull to the Wall, and the bright, breezy sunshine and immediacy of the guitars is rather lovely to behold, before we get into some tight riffing and excellent headbanging moments shortly into the track. Wingreen's vocals definitely give me a similar vibe to kind of a female Ross Jennings. There's something about her timbre, delivery, and attitude that comes across as, Aquarius-era Haken, and I'm all here for it. Thankfully, there's no woefully awful death growls here, just, pure power and pop-like prose. It's a fantastic opener to the album, really doing a great job of introducing the band to the listener and setting the scene perfectly, giving you a really good taste of the band's technical prowess, especially in the latter half, and mastery of the accessible melodies that are set to dominate the overall tone of the record. There's an instrumental section at around 3 minutes 50. It absolutely blindsided me on my first listen, and it still manages to do so even now after I've listened to the record maybe a dozen times at least. You'll know it when you hear it, and it becomes the band's little party trick a few times over the album, and it's never not a delight to hear. Second track, and second longest on the album, Sky High Places, is another winner of pure modern prog, featuring 8-bit musical flourishes, stellar guitars and thudding bass grooves, and is definitely one of the best tracks on the album. I mean, the Haken influence is clear as day on the sounds here, but it never feels like it's copying anything from the band, merely seeing them as a reference point, as Press to Enter have done an admirable job of forging their own identity even within the boundaries of archetypal modern progressive metal. I mean, yeah, the band rarely goes outside of the lines from what you'd expect from a prog band in 2023, but what they may lack in boundary pushing, they more than make up for in style, flair, and compositional excellence. I'll be honest with you though, I'm not a huge fan of the spoken word sections in this song, but in truth that's more down to my general apathy towards this kind of thing in pretty much all music. It's just not for me. But it's brief, and the band managed to make me gloss over it almost entirely on repeat listens with just how exciting, complex, and interesting the instrumentation on this song is overall. The third song of Evolvage is utterly fantastic, and if it were not for the closing track, it'd probably be my favourite song on the album. The opening instrumental section gives me pause to think of old Sega Mega Drive games. Specifically, it kind of feels like the opening of a Sonic the Hedgehog level, I don't know. Now, I don't know if it's just me getting that vibe or if the band deliberately set out to give this kind of impression, but I can 100% see the speedy blue hedgehog jumping around, collecting rings, and smashing up Dr. Eggman's shit to the sound of the opening of this song. The chorus on this one is bright, it's bubbly, it's engaging, and almost impossible not to groove along to. I've had this song stuck in my head for weeks now, and it's one I keep on coming back to, unable to escape its addictive clutches with its perfect marriage of staccato grooves and virtuosic flourishes. Lucas and Simon's respective solos towards the back half of the song have been haunting my dreams and making me wish at times that I'd spent more time playing music than talking about it. These guys are dark horses to keep an eye on, as man can they play. We move into the aforementioned segue track of Quick Fix before transitioning into fifth track Painkiller, and this serves as a very worthy pre-release single. Soulful vocals, a catchy chorus, and an absolutely killer guest spot from Arch Echo keyboardist Joey Izzo makes for a song that's hard to put down. I'm not huge on the lyrics of the chorus, but the passion and energy that Wingreen puts into the delivery more than makes up for it. What I love about this band though is how well they're able to swoop and dive between these poppy choruses, catchy melodies and simple riffs before completely face-melting with some of the most technical instrumental runs I've heard all year, and Painkiller is no exception to this. The back half of the album is an absolute stunner, and sixth track Frozen Red Light brings out even more sunshine with some of the brightest and boldest musicality on an album that's already chock full of passionate energy. It's another winner of a chorus and one that I've been unashamedly humming along to in the shower for many a morning. There's this fantastic driving groove to the whole track. I get summer vibes from this song, almost like this could be the prog metal equivalent of a beach volleyball anthem. But again, despite the accessibility, despite the infectious melodies and bubbly nature of the music, the band still throws in these incredibly technical musical interludes, and it's impossible not to smile while listening to this song. The last three songs, starting with The Try, are among my favourite on the album, and The Try is where we start to see a more subdued, introspective, and almost melancholy side to the band. Wingreen's vocals are absolutely haunting here, carrying a sense of morose weight to them, especially at around the 1 minute 10 seconds, where I will get chills every single time. It's a powerful, heavy song, eschewing the earlier bubblegum Barbie Pink in some of the album, in favour of a more mature, thoughtful and sombre approach to the music. It's a welcome mood shift though, and helps to keep the album feeling varied and interesting. Penultimate track, CITA, is another clear and obvious favourite. There's a solid groove, great big chunky guitars and bass, some dynamite soloing, and a good sense of pacing to the song. Nothing feeling too rushed or in your face. The band allows the track to breathe in between the moments of high intensity instrumentation, as well as the excellent electronica elements that are woven into the mix. Lucas's bass work is especially good here, and he's definitely someone to keep your eye on, as he deserves to be seen up there with some of the best low-end warriors in the genre right now. As a bassist myself, I am seriously impressed every single time he gets to shine. Finally, we get to the last song of Cry Trigger, and in classic prog metal fashion, we save the longest slice of the pie for the end. This song comes in at a beefy 9 minutes long, and while that may be short for prog metal standards, for Press to Enter, who've mostly stuck to shorter, sharper, more immediate songs for most of the album, it's awesome to see them flex their creativity across a longer form track. There's a real feeling of a song that's been taken from Haken's Affinity on here. The programmed instrumentation sounds like they've been slightly appropriated from Diego, but woven nicely into the band's own identity to make for something that enjoys its inspiration but still comes out swinging with its own indelible style and flavour. What I like most about this song, though, is how much it gets a chance to breathe in its latter half, and we get a sense of the band exploring the space between spaces a bit more. There's a sense of expansive experimentation as the instrumentation gets heavily stripped back and the spacier, more mellow side of the band is let loose and allowed to bloom. The song builds back up slowly, deliberately, and explosively though, bringing back in these glorious, bombastic and sky-piercing guitar tones before we settle into an almost post-rock groove with some of Lucas's most memorable bass work on an album where he's already proven himself dozens of times to me as one of the freshest new talents in the genre. Cry Trigger is a phenomenal track, instrumentally rich, vocally exciting and powerful, and an exceptional statement piece for the band, and unquestionably one of the best songs of 2023 for me. So, what else can I say about Press to Enter's From Mirror to Road? I was a little nervous when I pressed play on this album, as it's not that often that I get approached by bands to review their debut record, and in a lot of ways I feel humbled, honoured and extremely flattered that Press to Enter asked me to check them out. I was not expecting to be as utterly blown away by this album as I was. I was honestly expecting an entertaining, but ultimately maybe somewhat unremarkable album. I'm British and cynical, sue me. But what I got was one of my favourite releases of the year, and a certainty on my year-end list. I cannot stress enough that you need to be checking this album out when it releases on November 24th. This is one of the hidden gems in the 2023 progressive metal release schedule, and to miss out on what is arguably one of the most exciting new bands of the 2020s would be absolutely criminal. Definitely grab a physical copy of this one if you can, guys. I've not been this addicted, impressed and utterly in love with a new band in quite some time, and they deserve every success coming their way. New, emerging talent like this needs championing in our community, so please go and check this album out when it drops and let the band know what you think of them. Check them out on Facebook, drop them a message. They are all super cool people, and I wish them the absolute best for their future as a band. This is all, of course, guys, just my opinion, as you know, so when you get a chance to hear this album, or if you've heard the pre-release singles already, please tell me what you thought of them in the comments down below. If you did like this video, please do share it around with anyone else who you think would possibly enjoy it, and please do consider subscribing to the channel for more content. I'm going to leave a link to my Linktree down below, where you will find all the places to find me on social media, as well as a link to my Ko-fi page if you're feeling particularly generous and want to help support the growth of the channel. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures extremely odd.